All right, we live, sir.
All right. All right. All right. Let's see, here we go. All right, let's clap it up. All right. Another Tuesday, another brotherhood class, huh?
That's right.
Right. How Shem Shah Barak Thumb to all the brothers. Yahal Shemal Thumb Shem Shah to all the sisters. We back again here in Baltimore for another brotherhood class, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And tonight we're going to be talking about, we're going to go, first off, let's do this. Tonight's class, the title of tonight's class is Remember the Days of Old. And that's a problem with us as Israel, is we forget the days of old.
Right.
We're always being told, forget about slavery, forget about what happened, and things that happened to y'all happened a long time ago. They happened in the past. You understand? Every other nation is encouraged to remember the things that happened to them. But as for us as Israel, we are always told to forget about the past. Why are we always told to forget about the past? Because our past was a horrific time for any nation of people. You understand? The things that happened to us in the past and that are happening to us right now should never be forgotten.
Right.
We should always remember the days of old. You understand? You never forget what happened to you in the past. If you forget what happened to you in the past, you are doomed to repeat it. That's a saying. You understand? We should never, ever forget what happened to us. And the first thing I want to do is I want to grab that Deuteronomy chapter 32, and we're going to start at verse 7.
Come on, sir.
Let me grab that, make sure I'm up to speed. Okay. You understand? We should never forget what has happened to our people. You understand? And that's the problem with us now. And that's why we don't have love for our brothers and sisters, our own brothers and sisters, because we have forgotten what has happened to us.
Right.
You understand? All the other nations have desecrated and walked over us as a nation. You understand? We have been trampled upon. We have been taken advantage of by every nation. You understand? There is no nation that has not benefited from us. Every nation benefits from us. You understand? Let me know when you get that.
I got it, sir. You ready?
Yeah. Hit that.
Come on, sir. It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32 and verse 7. Remember the days of old.
Say that again.
Remember the days of old.
We should always remember the days of old. You understand? We should never forget the evils that have been brought upon us.
Right.
We should never forget about the lies that have been told to us. We should never forget about the thievery, about people stealing from us. We should never forget about the murderer. You understand? We should never forget about the murders. We should never forget about the way our people were raped and robbed and pillaged at every turn. You understand? Scripture says, remember the days of old. Go ahead.
Come on. Consider the years of many generations.
Consider the many generations that we have been through, the hell that we've been through. Since we've been on the shores of America, we have been a destroyed people. Generation after generation after generation. So much so that our DNA has passed down the evils that have been passed on to us by our oppressor. You understand?
Come.
There is no nation that has taken on the oppressor's customs and culture eternally in their DNA like we have.
Right.
You understand? We have been totally pillaged by the oppressor. Remember the days of old and consider the years of many generations. We have been destroyed generation after generation after generation. You understand? Read on, brother.
Come. Ask thy father, and he will shew thee.
Hey, listen, all we have to do is ask our fathers. Our fathers can tell us the evils that have happened to them. Our fathers can tell you how they sat at lunch counters and were half beat to death. Marching to nowhere and being murdered and lynched. You understand?
Come.
Everything that we stood up for. Think about the Black Panthers. You understand? Murdered. You understand? Think about every group that has tried to stand up. They have been put down like dogs.
Right.
You understand? But not this ISUPK.
That's right.
We refuse to be put down like dogs. You understand? Because we have the Most High in our corner.
That's right.
We follow the Most High. We won't be put down like these other groups. But remember the days of old. And what does it say? Consider the years of many generations. We have considered that in the ISUPK.
Right.
Read on, brother.
Come. Salaki.
Say,
Thy elders.
Ask thy fathers.
I'll take from there. Salaki.
Go ahead.
Ask thy fathers, and they shall shew thee. Thy elders, and they will tell
But
thee.
listen, the elders will tell us. You understand? The elders can tell us about the lynchings, about the Ku Klux Klan coming around, stealing children, chopping up babies, using our babies as alligator bait. The elders can tell us that. We got brothers and sisters that are alive today that were children when those things were happening. You understand?
Come.
We have to listen to our elders. Listen to what they're telling us. These are the things that we cannot forget. You understand? You ever see that shirt that we got in the UPK? Never forget. You see the brother with the whips on his back? We should never forget those things.
That's right.
We should never forget what has happened to us. No other nation forgets what happened to them. Let me ask a question. Did America forget about 9/11?
Lie.
You understand? America did not forget about that. Did the Japanese forget about Nagasaki and Hiroshima?
Lie.
You understand? Do you think the Ukrainians are going to forget about that war that they having right now?
Right.
You understand? Nobody will tell them to forget about that. Did the so-called small hat man forget about the Holocaust?
Right.
No. So why should we forget about the tragedies that have been happening to us?
Hey, Salaki, sir.
Go
If
ahead.
I could. And you know, when we say, the scripture say, don't forget about, consider the days are old, right?
Right.
I think in this day and age, well, we all, not that I think, I know, this
Mhm.
day and age, it's hard for a lot of us in Israel to just to grasp hold of the concept that we are hated in this place, right? And the reason I'm saying that is because it's easier just to get along with these people. So the actor Marlon Wayans, right? He's 51 years old. You know Marlon Wayans,
Right.
Wayans
Yeah.
brothers and all the clowns. So he tweeted about the Alabama little fight on the boardwalk.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He captioned and tweeted, "How about we not try that in a small town?" Sly, he said, "SHIT silly, bro. Let's all just be love, not war." And that's real LGBTQ coming from him. But,
That's real LGBTQ.
you know what I'm saying?
We also have to remember, right? That's just like the brothers in 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 11.
Come.
You understand? They want to come together with the heathen. Why does he want to come together with the heathen? Because he's benefiting.
Right.
You understand? He's not thinking about the 99.9% of the brothers and sisters that's going through a total hell.
Right.
He's thinking about the 0.1%. And that's the problem with us as Israel right now today. You understand? Every time Israel has always had sellout brothers and sisters.
Right.
We always going to see that. This is the reason why we should never let a actor or a sports figure or a singer or a dancer lead us.
Right.
Where can they lead us to? Right into the hands of the oppressor.
Right.
Where did Martin Luther King lead us to? Into the hands of the oppressor by way of integration.
Right.
You understand? And that right there with what's his name? Marlon Wayans.
Come, sir.
Just what he's saying is leading us into a total integration scene where we can totally be destroyed all over again.
Right.
This is the reason why we should not listen to actors and singers and dancers and entertainers, because that's what happened. Because think about it, right? Clarence Thomas, Thurgood Marshall. What's the other sister's name that's in there now?
I forgot. I know
Ketanji
it's a
Brown.
sister. Yeah, something like that.
Whatever. Listen. How can you be against affirmative action
Right.
as a black person?
Right.
You understand? Because now that you are with the oppressor, you see the world through the eyes of the oppressor. And this is the reason why we can't handpick anybody that the Most High did not pick. The Bible tells us that.
Right.
Those brothers and sisters, Marlon Wayans wasn't chosen by the Most High.
Right.
Because if he was chosen by the Most High, he'd be right here with us today.
That's right.
This is the reason why the scriptures tell us not to choose or put anyone over us that the Most High did not choose. And Marlon Wayans definitely was not chosen by the Most High, so we definitely are not listening to his dumb ass.
Right.
You understand? Where was we at?
We was in Deuteronomy 32 and 7.
Deuteronomy 32 and 7. What's that? Consider the
Remember the days of old.
remember the days. Look, he got me all mixed up. Remember the days of old. Our elders will show us, right? Our elders, and they will tell thee. They tell us these stories. These stories have been handed down from generation to generation. You understand? And we have to adhere, and we have to understand, and we have to continue to pass them down to our children. We can't let this stuff die out and die down. You understand?
Okay.
Listen, what we're going to get into today is we're going to get into the Jim Crow laws. We're going to get into the black codes. We're going to get into a lot of different things that have been happening to us that now we should understand. And these things should open our eyes and open our ears to understanding. And we should begin to come and follow these scriptures and get more understanding. This is the place to get knowledge. This is the place to get that understanding. You understand?
Okay.
This is the only place to get it. You ain't going to get it in Egyptology. You're not going to get it in the Book of the Dead. The coffin text. You're not going to get it in Islam. You're not going to get it in Buddhism. You're not going to get it in atheism. It's definitely not in Scientology.
Right.
You understand? Definitely not in that. And brother, listen, this is what's funny to me, right? We can hear these brothers talk garbage and trash all day long, but we never see these brothers out in the street. Right. We never see these brothers out in the street trying to talk to people. You understand? They right there on their computers talking trash over the computer, punching up classes. You got to pay for class. Look, you don't have to pay for no classes in here. All this, everything we telling brothers and sisters is free.
Right.
And it's guaranteed to work.
That's right.
I ain't seen none of that Egyptology work for anybody yet. I ain't seen nobody do anything off of Egyptology or Islam. Right. Every time you hear somebody from Islam speaking, they speaking from the goddamn Bible anyway.
Right.
They speaking from the Bible. Why would we listen to the Quran? We might as well go, we going to the Bible. Right. That's what they using. God damn, you know. But we're gonna get into some of these different laws and codes that they use to keep us destroyed. You understand? And the problem with us is we don't realize that these laws were made to keep us under the foot of the oppressor.
Right.
You understand? If you can, right? I'm going to pull up. I'm not even going to do that. This is what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to pull up the first one myself. And the first law that was officially, one of the first laws that was officially on the books was the Maryland Doctrine of Exclusion. This was when it was only the 13 colonies. Mm-hmm. The Maryland Doctrine of Exclusion. The Maryland Doctrine of Exclusion clearly stipulates that no slave, descendant of a slave, or black person shall enjoy the fruits of white society. Now, I always bring this out because a lot of brothers and sisters feel like blacks, Hispanics, and natives are lazy people because we don't have industries, we don't have things that can really build our nation up like other nations. We don't own big supermarket corporations. We don't own banks. We don't own any kind of what do they call it?
Factories, warehouses,
communities.
Okay.
You understand? Factories, warehouses, of course, some of those things. What's some more? Name some other things that we don't own. Gas stations, things like that.
Right.
Things that can build a community, things that can build a nation of people up. You understand?
Schools.
It's not by happenstance. Listen, like I said, the Maryland Doctrine of Exclusion clearly stipulates that no slave, descendant of a slave or black person shall enjoy the fruits of white society. We got to understand what are the fruits of white society. What are the fruits of white society? Go ahead. What you great say?
I was gonna say being a
Oh, let me take these off. My glasses fall. I'm getting heated. My glasses fogging up on me.
I was gonna say select. So I was gonna say being, you know, we all like sports. Being a professional sports league owner.
Okay, yeah.
Team
We
owner.
don't even own that.
Right.
Right?
None of that.
Think about this, right? They ran Michael Jordan up out of there. He done sold this team to some oppressors.
Right.
Right? And even if you are a black person who is a part owner of any franchise, most of the time you own maybe 3 or 4% of the franchise, which means what?
I mean, you make out, but it ain't really, you don't own it.
But you're a minority owner. You don't have a say in anything.
Right.
You understand? So
Right.
if they tell a team don't kneel for the national anthem, you have no say to go the other direction. You understand what I'm saying? We have to understand that what the fruits of what did I just say? The fruits of white society really is. You understand?
Say something.
1 2 1 2. You can hear the echo.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you got to turn that down.
I did.
Got it?
Cut on come.
Somebody hit you with that?
Yeah, cat.
Okay. We got to understand what the fruits of white society is. Fruits of white society is anything that you can build a nation off of. You understand? And this is the reason why we go to the scripture, Zephaniah 2:1. Gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired. We have to come together and we have to bring our resources together. And we hear people say it all the time, right? We got to bring our resources together and build our own communities. But it says, gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired. First off, we have to come together on one accord.
Right.
Many people have come together many times, many places, in many different eras, but things just don't work. And the reason why those things don't work is because they don't come together on one accord. Everybody comes together, but everybody comes together and have their own agenda.
Right.
That's the destroying thing right there. And we read a couple of weeks ago, was that in Acts chapter 4, verse 31 to 35, right?
Okay.
That's ethno aggregation. It talks about it in the Bible, and it tells us how we come together, how we bring our resources together, and we take care of our own people. That's the problem with Israel today. We come together, but we come together in the cause of other nations.
Right.
We like to come together and root for the other nations, but when it comes to building our own people up, we have no clue. You understand? And when it comes to it, every nation comes together to build their own nation, but no nation comes together to help Israel build Israel.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? These are the issues that we have. And this is the reason why we get out there on those corners on Saturdays and we speak to our people. You understand? We have to get our people to understand that we have to come together. Just like you come together to give for the Ukrainians, you come together to give to the Asians, you come together to give to Africans who don't even think about us.
Right.
Think about it. These brothers keep saying we African, we African, we African. Out of 54 nations in the United Nations, 54 of those, out of 214 nations in the United Nations, there are 54 nations representing each African nation. Which of those nations has stood up to stand for Israel in America, or to stand for the so-called Black, Hispanics, and Natives in America? Tell me, what African nation has stood for that?
Zero.
Somebody tell me what African nation has stood for us. No African nation. There will never be an African nation that will stand for us. Hey, Nadarwan, you're going to have to let that go. Yeah, they've been doing that since we've been here. Yeah. But no African nation, and then I always ask people, right? I ask people because we pimp for Africa all day, every day, right? We pimp for Africa all day, every day. But what movement is in Africa fighting for the blacks, Hispanics, and natives right here in America? There is no movement.
Right.
So why would we have a movement here for them? Every African nation knows that we are not African.
Right.
Think about it. We talked about this a few weeks ago in the Darwan. African nations have been apologizing for the last 4 or 5 years for slavery, right?
Right.
But the African nations are not apologizing to other African nations. Kenya's not apologizing to Ghana. You understand? Zimbabwe is not apologizing to the Congolese, right?
Right.
So who are they apologizing to? They're apologizing to us.
Right.
Because first of all, first and foremost, the Africans know that we were never African.
Right.
Right? I don't want to get too far off, but we have to understand that we have to remember the days of old. We have to remember the things that have happened to us. You understand? We are a destroyed people. And the only way a destroyed people are going to come back and be strengthened is if we come together and build ourselves back up. There is no nation that is going to come to our defense. You understand? No nation is going to come to our defense. We have to rely on the Most High. Relying on the Most High is coming back to these laws, statutes, and commandments. But what I want to do now is, like I said, I got into that Maryland doctrine of exclusion. We have to understand that this is not a conspiracy. What is this? This is crafty counsel.
Come.
This is crafty counsel. You understand? Grab that. Grab that.
Oh, you want that?
Yeah,
I got you.
that's going to be Psalms 83.
Gotcha.
We're going to start at, let's start at 1.
Come. So book of Psalms, chapter 83 and verse 1. Keep not thy silence, O God.
O Yahweh.
O Yahweh, sorry. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O Yahweh. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
Go ahead.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people.
Say that again.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people.
Hey, listen, these nations have taken crafty counsel against us. And because they have taken crafty counsel against us, this is the reason why we have to come together and be against them.
Right.
We can't come up and be at the forefront of every cause for every nation, and no nation stands for us. The Bible tells us that they have taken crafty counsel against us.
Right.
They sit in the United Nations and continue to say or continue to make plans of how they can keep us enslaved. You understand? This is not by happenstance that we going through what we're going through. Think about it, right? We're the strongest people on this earth. We're the most brilliant people on this earth. We have everything going for us, but we are at the bottom of everything, and we are number one at all the worst things that you can be number one at.
Right.
Why is that? Because we're not following law, statutes, and commandments. But what I want to do now, we have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. Who the hidden ones? Who the hidden ones?
Me, sir?
Yeah, you.
Oh, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans.
Blacks,
sir.
Hispanics, and natives. Look, everybody knows who we are but us. You
Right.
understand? Everybody know who we are but us. You understand? They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation. We don't even look at ourselves as a nation. We look at ourselves as Americans or
Right.
Africans.
Right.
You understand? Or Muslims. You understand? Or blacks. You understand? We don't even look at ourselves as a nation anymore. You understand? You know why? Because we don't remember the days of old.
Right.
Because we don't talk to our fathers. We don't seek counsel from our elders. You understand? We take it upon ourselves to believe our oppressor.
Right.
You understand? What I want to do now is I want to jump into one of them articles that I gave you. If you look at it, did I send you that article for
I got what's Jim Crow? What was Jim Crow?
the black codes?
Black codes. Oh,
Yeah.
I got you. From the History Channel, right?
Yep.
I got
Hold
you.
up for a sec. Let me grab.
Come.
I want to make sure I'm up with you, bro. I don't want you to leave me. Is that the Black Codes, Jim Crow laws?
It's the second one you sent me.
Okay. Let me go back. Slocky. Give me a little bit of time. I'm old. The second one. Okay. Yep. Let's go to that first paragraph.
Come.
And listen. Go ahead. Read that.
Black codes from the History Channel. Black codes were restrictive laws designed to limit the freedom of African Americans and ensure their availability as a cheap labor force.
Think about this, right? It says as a cheap labor force. We were a free labor force.
Right.
They smoothing it over. They putting a little icing on the cake right there, but this is a cake with no icing right here. We was a free labor force. Labor was free.
Right.
We didn't make any money in this era right here. Go ahead.
As a cheap labor force after slavery was abolished during the Civil War.
Go ahead.
Though the Union victory had given some 4 million enslaved people their freedom, the question of free black people's status in the post-war South was still very much unresolved.
And think about this, right? They always talk about the slaves in the South, right? And if you remember, the Civil War was about keeping what? The Union together, right?
Come.
So they didn't care whether they freed the slaves or the slaves were not freed, or Abraham Lincoln could have cared less.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? But it was about keeping the Union together. And the only way Abraham Lincoln realized that he could keep the Union together was to free the slaves in the South.
Right.
America had slaves all over. Remember this though, right? Slaves in the South were called slaves. Slaves in the North were just butlers and maids.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? They all were slaves all together anyway. Slaves did not get a cent. You understand? So we have to remember that we worked for free. You understand?
Right.
And now, sidebar, what they're trying to do is try to make this transatlantic slave trade be a transatlantic migration.
Right.
And now on top of that, they're trying to make it seem like slavery was a good thing for us. Slavery was never a good thing for us.
Right.
This condition that we are living in right now, the poverty that most of our brothers and sisters are living in right now, is because of slavery. It's because of the robbery, the rape, and the murder. Slavery could never have been a good thing for us. And remember the days of old. These are the things that we have to pass down to our children.
Right.
These are the things that we have to write down. These are the things that we have to keep in remembrance.
Right.
Because if we forget and we don't tell our children, if we don't remember the days of old, our children are going to grow up thinking that slavery was a good thing. Go ahead.
Right. And you're right, sir, because you bring out a good point. Because we are the only ones that's not teaching our children our history.
Exactly.
You think these so-called oppressors ain't telling them devil babies that they were slave owners and all that? It's a lot.
Now listen. Now understand this, right? They not. What they sugarcoating for their children is that they worked for everything that they got. They struggled and they fought for everything they got. This is the whole reason why they don't want critical race theory to be brought out. What is critical race theory? Critical race theory is the true history of America. Critical race theory is the true history or true black history. You understand what I'm saying? When you have to do a black history report, your black history report should be on the Stono Rebellion. Your Black History report should be the the Pooh Monkey poison talks. You understand what I'm saying? When the oppressor poisoned hundreds of Native American Indians with wine, poisoned wine. And the ones that didn't drink the wine, they have beat them to death. They wiped out a whole nation, a whole tribe of Indians. The Pooh Monkey poisoning. You understand what I'm saying? This is the reason why we have to remember the days of old.
Right.
You understand? We can't let our children forget. We can't let our oppressor write the narrative for our children, or our children are going to relive slavery all over again. We still in slavery right now.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying? The only way we come up out of slavery is to follow these laws, statutes, and commandments. You understand? Most High was going, listen, I can't wait. This Third World War it's already set in stone.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying? That's why I always be sending you them articles for bricks. You see, I sent you a couple.
Yeah, I checked it out.
You understand what I'm saying? Listen, the nations are coming together. They just had 13 more nations. I don't want to sidebar off of what I'm talking about, but 13 more nations have signed up to join BRICS.
Right.
You understand?
And they clipping U.S. dollar too.
Yeah, they clipping the U.S. dollar. That's a good thing.
Right.
You understand? But back on the topic. You understand? We have to remember the things that have been happening to us. Go ahead, finish that article.
Come on, sir. Under black codes, many states required black people to sign yearly labor contracts. If they refuse, they risk being arrested, fined, and forced into unpaid labor.
You hear that? Read that again.
Come on. Under black codes, many states required black people to sign yearly labor contracts. If they refuse, they risk being arrested, fined, and forced into unpaid labor.
Hey, listen, check this out. Psalms 55:20 says, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. You hear that labor contract?
Mm-hmm.
Read it again.
Come on, sir. Under black codes, many states required black people to sign yearly labor contracts. If they refuse, they risk being arrested, fined, and forced into unpaid labor.
Forced into unpaid labor. Listen, if you refuse me, you're going to be forced into unpaid labor.
Right.
Forced. You understand?
Come on.
These are the things that we have to remind our children of. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You could be forced into unpaid, or what's that? Unpaid labor?
Unpaid labor.
They plan on unpaying you anyway.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And they're gonna force you to sign a year-long contract. You know what I hate? I hate. This is what I hate. I hate Comcast Cable.
Hate them.
And I hate Comcast Cable because, right, what they do is they force you into a 2-year contract, but the discount they give you is only for a year. And then after that 1 year, boom, your joint go back up, and then you paying astronomical prices for some bull.
Right. If you want to break the contract, you got to pay.
You break the contract, you got to pay. Well,
right.
This is where all that comes from.
Right.
They force you into something for a little bit so they can get a lot.
Right.
And this is what the oppressor does. The oppressor forces you into a little bit so that they can get a lot. And in this instance, they forcing you into a little bit or none so they can get all.
Right.
The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. You understand?
Come on.
That was 21. Listen, it says he have put forth such as be at peace with him. Sign this contract.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, sign this contract. You understand? So we can do business. You don't sign it, then the war comes out. Listen, it says he had broken his, listen, he has put forth his hand as such that be at peace with him. This is what they do. This is what they did to the Native American Indians.
Right.
CNN said, I think about a year or two ago, that they had signed 100 and over. As a matter of fact, we say 177, but CNN said over 200 peace treaties with the Native American Indians, and they still breaking those peace treaties to this day.
Right.
These are the things that we have to remember. We have to teach our children these things. It's the reason why we got to write these things down. We got to, we gotta orally pass down these traditions, not just write them down, but orally keep them in our children's minds.
Right.
We have to let our children know that the oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks
Damn right.
of. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Because if we don't, we'll have a whole bunch of Marlon Wayans out there.
Right.
You understand? We'll have a whole bunch of Charles Barkleys out there. We'll have a whole bunch of Stephen A. Smiths. We'll have a whole bunch of Clarence Thomases and Steve Harveys. You understand what I'm saying? We have to remember, and Oprah Winfrey's. You understand? I don't want to leave her out.
Right.
You understand? We have to remember these things. You understand?
Come.
I want to, what's that other scripture that I was looking for? Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, chapter 12, verse 10.
Come, got you, sir.
And this is the problem with us right here, too. You understand?
Come.
We put too much trust in the oppressor.
And I got
so much trust, so much so that we fall into the traps and the snares every time. Go ahead, read that.
It's the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12 and 10. Never trust thine enemy.
That's our problem. We are too trusting of a people. The thing is we trust in other people when it comes to trusting other nations.
Right.
We never put our trust in our own people. The only time we really put trust in our own people is when we were building all the little black cities and towns right after the Reconstruction. Why did we put so much trust in our people then?
That's all we had, sir.
Say that again.
That's all we had was us.
That's all we had. We had to trust in our own people. We had to do business with our own people. And think about it, right? When our oppressor was going through his Great Depression, we had millionaires on top of millionaires.
Right.
You understand? Because our economy is not built on them.
Right.
Their economy is built on us.
Right.
You understand? Our economy is not built on the oppressor. The oppressor's economy is built off of us. Think about all the great inventions. Name some great inventions. Name some great inventions that the oppressor created.
I got one.
That the oppressor created?
Come.
What's that?
The patent office.
Oh, you know what? You got me on that one. You got me on that. And I believe he stole that from a brother too.
Probably.
You understand? Mm-hmm. I believe he stole that from a brother too. But name a great invention of a brother. The cotton gin. Refrigerator. Stoplight.
Right.
Front porch.
Escalator. Elevator.
Bedpost. Escalator. Elevator.
GPS.
The GPS. You understand?
Okay.
Now, I want to go even further, right? Name an invention of the oppressor.
Slavery. Oh, I got you. Jim Crow laws.
Jim Crow laws. Was that an invention or an idea?
Well, they put it in effect, so it ain't an invention. It was an idea.
It's an idea.
It's an idea.
You understand what I'm saying? But America is built off the inventions and creations of the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives.
Right.
You understand? America's strength is built off of us.
Right.
We live in the shadow of America when, in fact, America is the shadow of us.
Right. That's right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Come.
We live in the shadow of America, meaning we trust in America. When, in fact, America really trusts in us.
Right.
Everything that America is built off is the trust that they're going to keep disobeying their God. America trusts in that.
Right.
And America has been winning.
That's right.
You understand?
Come.
America has totally been winning. So now, let's get down, right? Let's read back at that article. Go ahead, finish that scripture first.
Come, sir. It's the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12 and verse 10. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusted, so is his wickedness.
For like so is iron rusted, so is his wickedness. Listen, eventually the true properties of the oppressor is going to show through.
Right.
Now we both, you and I both work with iron, with
Right.
steel and different, different metals. We both know that iron rusted.
Okay.
Iron rusts quickly, especially if it's not lubed. All right, I work with CNC machines, right? And we work with iron all the time. And when we cut iron and you take that top coat off, it gets real shiny and glistening.
Mm-hmm.
You take it off the machine and you let it sit for about a half hour, 45 minutes, you start to see little rust spots come up on it.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what we usually do is when we shine it up, we usually put a lube over top of it so that the rust doesn't start popping up and that actual properties of the iron doesn't show through.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what this scripture's talking about. This is the reason why it uses iron as a metaphor.
Right.
Just as iron rusted, so is his wickedness. Eventually, the true properties of the iron is going to show through. Well, it's just like our oppressor. Eventually, his true characteristics are going to show through. His true ambition, his true, what they call it, his true motives
Oh yeah, come on.
are going to eventually show through. You're eventually going to see who he really is. You understand what I'm saying?
Come.
You're eventually going to see who he really is. So is iron rusted, so is his wickedness, right?
Come.
I want you to drop down to 16 for me.
Come, sir. Verse 16. An enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit.
Hey, listen, all these contracts that we sign with our enemy, just like you were just saying, right? The sharecroppers. That sharecropper, he's speaking sweetly with his lips.
Right.
But the whole time he's trying to figure out how he can put you into a bind,
right.
how he can throw you into a pit, how he can get you bound up to where you leave in this sharecropping thing with no money.
Right.
Matter of fact, a lot of brothers and sisters left the sharecropping thing and owed.
Right.
How do you leave a sharecropping job and you owe? Listen, it says it right here. An enemy speaks sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit.
Right.
Listen, whenever the oppressor wants to make a deal with you, it's always in the back of his mind how he can come out on top of the deal and leave you empty-handed.
Right.
That's just the way the oppressor operates. Go ahead.
Yeah, think about it. So you spot on because a lot of athletes, when they sign those big contracts with those sports agents, you know what I'm saying? The sport agents, you don't know what the sport agent really negotiated that contract for. He getting money off the top. Mm-hmm. You paying him 2-3% of the contract that he's presenting to you. And then at the end of your lifespan of your basketball career, you know what I mean? A lot of these brothers be broke. But who came out on top? Everybody that the agent agrees palms with, including the agent. You know what I mean? The player. What you got? What you come out with? Injured back, busted knees, PTSD. You know what I mean? I'm
gonna go one even further with you, right? That pertains right here to this scripture, right? Think about all the brothers that ended their career and that got caught up in tax evasion.
Right.
Think about all the brothers that had tax people doing their taxes and ended up at the end of their career in tax evasion.
Right.
I think MC Hammer, it happened to MC Hammer.
MC Hammer, Fat Joe.
I'm gonna give you one even better. Yeah, remember Fat Joe talked about it on this joint.
Right.
Fat Joe got lucky because he had money saved up where he could pay the joint off. Mm-hmm. But his tax man screwed him.
Right.
I'm gonna give you one even better. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had to play 3 more years more than what he wanted to play because he got messed over by his tax people.
Dang, I didn't know that.
You understand what I'm saying? All the years that he played, he got messed over. His last year he had I watched that. He had a tour his last year that he played, every arena that he went to, they gave him stuff. You understand what I'm saying? And now he the major one talking about we need to get along.
Right.
You understand? And if you remember back in that if you seen that movie, it had Malcolm X, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Muhammad Ali, and it was another brother. He was a singer. They had all got together.
He was stuck in a room.
Yeah, but they was all fighting the cause
Mm-hmm.
back in the day. Where you know, everybody who was fighting the cause, they stuck it to him some kind of way. Remember, Malcolm X got killed. I don't know what happened to the singer dude, but Kareem Abdul-Jabbar got messed around at the end of his career, and Muhammad Ali got locked up for not signing up. Remember that
For the
when they
war.
took his for the war joint.
Right.
But they always find a way. They speak sweetly, but they always trying to find a way to stick you. And these are the things that we have to remind our children, especially when dealing with the oppressor. We can, the scripture, Ecclesiastes 12:10, never trust thine enemy. We
Right.
can't trust these people as far as you can see them. You know, and even as far as you can see them, you can't trust them, period.
Right.
Don't give them no wiggle room. You can't. You understand? Because in any way that they can, they're going to stick us. And they've been doing it since we've been on the shores of America.
Right.
You understand? The Romans did it to us in Israel. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
They stick you any way that they can. There is no getting around it.
Right.
You understand? Where was we at?
Ecclesiastes 12:16, sir.
Go ahead.
All right, I'll take it from the top. An enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit.
Hey, listen, all of these black codes that we talk about, it's the same thing. Each code is a code that they created to keep us bound, to keep us in that pit, to keep us in a hole. So that, listen, every nation understands that if they leave us alone, we're going to surpass every nation.
Right.
So they have to make laws like black codes. They have to make Jim Crow laws. They have to make redlining laws. They have to make gentrification laws. You understand what I'm saying? They have to say we have eminent domain.
Right.
You understand? They have to do things like that because if they leave us alone, we skyrocket right past them.
Mhm.
And then they end up on the bottom.
Right.
The nations know that. The oppressor knows that. This is the reason why they create these laws like they create.
Right.
You understand? It's no getting around it.
Right.
You understand? Look at us. Even in the worst conditions, we prosper in the worst conditions. In these hellish conditions, we still got the best athletes. We still got the best mathematicians. You understand? We still have the best doctors. You understand? But the problem is we're not following the Most High.
Right.
This is the reason why they exploit us in every turn. You understand? Even in getting into the Supreme Court, they get our people get exploited even in the Supreme Court.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? How do you, Clarence Thomas, as a black man, go against affirmative action when you used affirmative action to get where you are?
That's right.
How do we do that?
Right.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's in a position where he is, now he sees the world through the eyes of our oppressors.
Right.
And this is what happens to us. But these are the laws that have been created. So a brother like him comes up from out of the projects, from out of poor, from out of nothing. And once they get a crumb, now they looking back at everybody else saying, if I can do it, so can you.
Right.
So these are the conditions that were created. And I can't stand it when I hear brothers and sisters say, well, everybody got the same opportunity. No, everybody does not have the same opportunity. Life for so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives is like a lottery shot.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? Back in the day, they used to pick a lottery ball. Open up the thing, and one ball come down, boom. And it's like it. That's life for so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives. Only one person can make it.
Right.
Think about it, right? The numbers in the balls go from 1 to what? 64, right? Only one person can make it do that hole at a time. And then because that one person made it, guess what they say? Well, if he did it, then so can you.
Right.
He had the same opportunity. No, he did not. You understand? Black people that are on top are chosen. Think about how many brothers out here better than Michael Jordan in basketball. Michael Jordan was just chosen.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Everybody keep thinking, oh, he the great, he the great, he the great. He was just chosen. There's a lot of brothers out here was better than him.
Right.
Len Bias was chosen. Just ain't make it all the way. You understand what I'm saying?
Come.
Because of the oppressor, he laid in a coffin today. You understand what I'm saying?
Come.
Why do I say that? Because oppressor in the 80s put cocaine and crack on our streets. What did Len Bias die from?
Overdose.
Overdose. Who brought the drugs in?
Oppressor.
The oppressor. You understand? They chose him to be there and they chose him to be here.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah, it's like he had a heart attack, right, on the court? Or was it in a
It was a drug. It was because of a drug overdose.
Okay. But he wasn't playing basketball when he died, right?
No, he didn't even play his first game. Right. He got drafted by the Boston Celtics.
Okay.
And died from an overdose. You talking about the boy that played for
Maryland, right?
No. Len Bias played for Maryland, but the boy that played for Loyola Marymount is the one that died on the court.
Okay, come.
That was in the 90s.
Okay.
Len Bias died in the 80s.
Gotcha.
Because him and Michael Jordan Mike came out the year before he did. He came out, and that was the battle everybody wanted to see because they saw him battle in North Carolina and Maryland. They saw Len Bias take it to him. Can he do it again? Yeah, he could have.
Right. Oh, yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So the conditions are created for us to be in the position that we in. Our oppressor creates these conditions by his laws.
Right.
You understand? By his redlining laws, by his gentrification, by his segregation. And we got to also remember too, right? Segregation was something created to keep us in the condition that we in too. Remember this. You have integration, you have segregation, and then you have separation, right? Integration is us integrating into them. It wasn't supposed to be like that, but you got to understand something, right? They said they were going to integrate schools in the South, right? They didn't say black schools. They didn't say white schools. They said schools. But why was only black students being sent to white schools?
Right.
White students were not being sent to black schools. You understand? So, which means what? Integration is us coming into them.
Right.
And I always use this term. I always say that when we integrate into anything, you become the thing that you integrate into.
That's right. That's right.
Clarence Thomas integrated. Clarence Thomas became the thing that he integrated into.
Right.
Martin Luther King integrated. He became the thing that he integrated into. Ketanji Brown, whatever her name is, integrated. She became the thing she integrated into, just like Oprah Winfrey, just like Steve Harvey, and just like Charles Barkley, and all Stephen A. Smith, and all those other brothers and sisters that became the very thing. And then they turn around and talk about us as though we are not them and they are not us.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
Conditions are created to turn people. And then what they do is they say, well, if he made it, then you can too.
Right.
The conditions were created by the laws that they make. You understand?
Okay.
Just like what's his name from here, the surgeon?
Ben
Carson. You understand? They made him, they put him, before he became whatever he became for Trump, they made him the head of housing, right? Yeah. And then he wanted to destroy housing, take food stamps away, the very thing that got him over and got his mama and him through. Right. He want to take away and not let any more Ben Carsons come through.
I don't understand.
Because they're destroyed. Listen, whenever you integrate into anything, you become the thing you integrate into.
Right.
So now that you've become your oppressor, now you hate your people.
Right.
Because the oppressor hates us. So when you integrate and become the oppressor, you hate your own people.
That's right.
It's just natural. What does the Bible tell us, right? You can't love You can't love
Oh,
money.
you can't love one master. You can't love one
One,
master. You're gonna love one or hate the other.
love one and hate the other.
Right.
You can't love both.
Right.
You got to love one and hate the other. So if you love your master, you're going to hate your brother.
Right.
Well, Ben Carson loves his master, so he hates us.
Mm-hmm.
Terrence Columbus loves his master, so he hates us. Oprah
Right.
Winfrey loves her master, so she hates us.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way it is.
Right.
You understand? Go ahead.
Come on, sir. Salagi. And enemies, like this is Ecclesiastes 12 and 16. Enemies speaketh sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit.
Right, go ahead.
He will wipe his eyes, but if he find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood.
Listen, he wants your very soul. Listen, when the oppressor stomps you out, he wants to stomp you out. He wants to stomp out your very being.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
When he stomps and he crushes and he kills, he doesn't want any rebellion left in you.
Right.
He wants to crush your very being. He wants you to be humble.
Right.
He wants you to love him and hate you. Listen, if you notice, right? Think about it, right? If you notice, they love the very people that hate their own people.
Right.
They love all the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives that hate their own people. The oppressor loves them.
Right. Right.
Because their very being has been crushed. Their very everything has been crushed. The very life of them have been crushed out.
Right.
They just a dead soul. And that's what the oppressor wants. He wants a dead soul.
Right.
You understand? Go ahead.
Come. He will not be satisfied with blood. Verse 17. If adversary come upon thee.
Adversity.
17, sir. 12 and 17.
If adversity.
Oh, it's like if adversity come upon thee, thou shalt find him there first. And though he pretend to help thee, yet shall he undermine thee.
Think about the March on Washington, right?
Mm-hmm.
This very scripture right here describes the March on Washington, right? It says, if adversity come upon them, if adversity comes upon thee, thou shalt find him there first. Listen, a lot of brothers and sisters think that Martin Luther King, James Farmer, John Lewis, I can't remember the other brother's name. Anyway, we always think of them being the head of the March on Washington, but it was actually 4 oppressors who was the head of the March on Washington. Mm-hmm. The March on Washington was actually supposed to be a march on the White House. It was actually supposed to be close to a riot on the White House. But instead, JFK called Martin Luther King and put them head of the March on Washington, told them to lead them away from the White House and let them march on Washington, let them march on the monument between the Washington and the Lincoln Memorial. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
So the March on Washington was supposed to actually been a march on the White House. It was supposed to actually, like I said, been a riot on the White House. And when he said, he gave the 6, which they were called the Big 6.
Right.
He gave them $1.5 million, which was $250,000 a piece, which was millions of dollars back in the 1950s. Right? He gave them half before the march and said if it was successful, they got the other half, which the March on Washington was successful. Why was it successful? Because there were no riots.
Right.
Everybody was calm and everybody went home broke.
Right.
Everybody went home broke. You understand? It says, if adversity come upon thee, thou shalt find him there first. And though he pretend to help thee, yet shall he undermine thee. Listen, JFK undermined the whole March on Washington.
That's right.
He undermined the whole March on Washington. And what did he use? He used integrationists.
Right.
He used Martin Luther King, James Farmer, John Lewis, and all those other characters to carry out his bidding. And they did it for a couple of silver coins.
Right.
You understand? And we destroyed to this day. What did we get from the March on Washington? We still begging for jobs.
Right.
We still begging for equality, right?
Right.
What did marching do for us? What did marching do?
Make you tired.
Made us tired. I'm tired from I didn't march. I'm tired.
Right.
You understand?
Okay.
I'm tired of hearing of it. Go ahead.
It's a lot, yes, sir. And a lot of brothers and sisters and families that migrated up to DC area, they wasn't even originally from DC. You got brothers from Alabama down south. You know what I'm saying? So when they came up to Washington, they gonna make it back home or have some bread or something, and they got stuck up here. That's
Right.
why so many so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans
Right.
that's here in DC or in DMV area.
Right.
They didn't have a way to get back home. You understand? So they had to they found the alternative and just do what we always do, being resilient people, and made a living here.
You ever see that clip of Martin Luther King said, "We gonna march on Washington, and we coming, and when we come, we gonna get our check." You ever see that?
Lie.
He said that, right? And he got his check.
He got his.
He got his check.
Right.
He didn't get nothing for nobody else.
Right.
And this is the reason why we can't choose a leader to put over us that the Most High did not choose.
Right.
We can't put anybody over us, even if it's a brother, even if it's an Israelite.
Right.
If the Most High didn't choose them, we cannot put them over us. Because we can see it's a lot of us out here that don't have our best interests at heart.
Right.
You understand? We got a lot of sellout leaders today.
That's right.
Because you can't have a black mayor, black city councilman, black commissioners, and black attorneys and be the worst cities in America.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right. That makes no sense.
Because the agenda of Israel is not on their mind.
Right.
The agenda of the oppressor is on their mind.
That's right.
You understand? And we destroyed as a people. But the only way we come back is how?
So like if I could, getting back to these laws, statutes, commandments in the ISUPK, under Commander General Yohanan.
Hey, it's the only way to do it.
That's it.
Let's go back to the article.
Call concert. All right, I'm there, sir.
Oh shit. What did I just do?
Well, we still select. We still in the we were in the black codes, right?
Yeah, black codes. That was the History Channel, right?
Come on.
Okay, I jumped to the wrong one. Mine is blinked out on me. Okay, I'm there. You got it?
Come on. So we had Reconstruction begins? Or you want to go?
Yep, go ahead. Go ahead from there.
Come on. Reconstruction begins when President Abraham Lincoln announced the impeding passage of the Emancipation Proclamation in early 1863. The stakes of the Civil War shifted dramatically.
Let me ask a question. What does emancipation mean?
Off the top of the dome? I don't know.
Top of the dome. Off the top of the dome. Give me something. Tell me something. You got it. You got it. You got it.
It's a lot.
No, you got it.
I said, to make people free and legally, you know what I'm saying? Set free from.
Check this out, right?
Just to be free.
Children can be emancipated from their parents, right?
Be separated.
What does that mean? To be emancipated from your parents?
In my own words, to be legally separated or unobligated to something, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That work?
Right. That's gonna
Sound
work
like a
today.
smart nigga to me,
That's
right?
gonna work today, right? Listen,
Okay.
listen. To be emancipated from, we just gonna go the kid route first,
Okay, come on.
because they have. I was talking to my rib, and a child can be emancipated at what age? 14, between 14 and 17, right?
Right.
They can be emancipated, right? To be emancipated means they are no longer under the jurisdiction of their parent.
Right.
But remember this: if you go to court as a minor, when you go to court, they release you into the custody of your parent
Mm-hmm.
because you are a minor, right?
Right.
They release you into the custody of your parent because you are a minor. Now, if you are emancipated, if you go to court, who do you go into custody to?
To the state.
To the state. So remember this: when a child is emancipated, now they are no longer in the custody of their parent, but now they are in the custody of the state.
Right.
Well, in the Emancipation Proclamation that Abraham Lincoln created, he took us from the property of a slave owner, private property, into the property of the state. Now we are state property as opposed to private property.
Right. Okay.
We have been emancipated, but now they emancipated us right into the state. Then what they did was they created the 13th Amendment, right? The 13th Amendment says what?
If you commit any crimes, you can do free labor in prison.
Right. Any crime, they said you are a free person unless you commit a crime and are convicted.
Right.
Right. So then in doing that, what did they create? They created black codes.
Right.
Right. What was a black code?
Black code was laws that restricted blacks from participating in certain things.
I think you got the meaning of that too.
But the black code, the
Yeah.
definition?
Give me that definition. It should be, I believe it's at the if you touch was that it?
I got the definition.
Go ahead, read it.
Black codes, the black code, sometimes called the black laws, were laws which governed and conducted African Americans.
Right.
Did you want something more than that?
Here we go. I got you right here. Black codes were restrictive laws designed to limit the freedom of African Americans and ensure their availability as a cheap labor force after slavery was abolished during the Civil War. Right? So basically, we create the 13th Amendment when we say you are a free person unless you commit a crime that you are duly convicted of, right? So then what we do is we create a black code called the vagrancy law, right? If I caught you standing on a corner and you didn't have $1 in your pocket, I could lock you up. You understand what I'm saying? If it were two or more of you huddled in a gathering, I could lock you up. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
If you didn't have papers on you, or if you didn't have identification, which remember they still do today.
Okay.
If you don't have identification on you, I could lock you up. These are black codes.
Right.
You understand? These codes were codes created to continually enslave us.
Right.
You understand? Think about this too. Now, this is why a lot of private prisons are popping up in the southern states. You got a lot of private prisons popping up. Prisons are popular now.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? I think Michael Jordan put a whole lot of money into prison.
He's definitely an investor.
You understand what I'm saying? And listen, this is how destroyed we are as a people. So much so that our own people want to make money off of us in a terrible way.
Right.
He'd have been better off trying to get a basketball team.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
These are what the black codes did. Black codes continually enslaved us. You understand? And just like the scripture was saying, he speaks sweetly with his lips, but the whole time he in his mind, he trying to figure out a way to throw us into a pit. He trying to find a way to to place us back in slavery. He's trying to find a way to bound us. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
These are the things that, remember the days of old.
Come.
These are the things that we have to continually teach our children. These are the things that we have to continually pass down. We have to remind our children when they have children, pass this down. Let our children know. You understand?
Come.
Let them know this story right here. Let them know what these people are trying to do to us.
Right.
You understand?
Come.
Go ahead, finish reading.
Come, sir. The stakes, a Union victory.
Before you do that, stop right there.
Come.
Oh, go ahead. Read that. What was you going to read?
A Union victory would mean no less than revolution in the South, where the peculiar institution of slavery would dominate economic, political, and social life in the antebellum years.
Right. Okay. And you're going to drop that. I'm going to read this. Though the Union victory had given some 4 million enslaved people their freedom, the question of freed Black people's status is the post-war South was still very much unresolved. Under Black codes, many states required Black people to sign yearly labor contracts. Remember, we were just talking about that.
Right.
Right? And you just read this. If they refused, they risked being arrested, fined, and forced into unpaid labor, which is what they really want to do anyway. The brothers and sisters that's upstate now in a lot of these prisons now are being used as labor forces.
Right.
You understand? And they're being paid maybe what? $1 a day, if that. You understand what I'm saying? Maybe $1 or $2 a day. Think about this. They had 2 years ago, they had brothers fighting fires,
Right.
wildfires, for $2 an hour. You understand? And I remember back when I was young, every time those California wildfires broke out, we always heard a count of how many firefighters got lost in those fires. And all of a sudden, in the early 2000s, you stopped hearing that. Why did you stop hearing that? Because now they're using a labor force that they don't have to account for.
Right.
You understand? These are the conditions that they place us in so that they can put us in conditions like that so that they can benefit off of us like they're doing right now. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
These are the conditions that these are the things that we have to continually remind our children of. These are the things, remember the days of old.
Right.
I'm glad I got that title. Remember the days of old. We got to remember. We have to remember the things that have happened to us so that our children don't have to relive the same thing. I got to get that shirt.
Oh, I got y'all seen the link.
Got to get that. Yeah. Brainwashed. Yeah.
SUPK fly.
I could dig it. I know. You know? Outraged over Black codes helped undermine support for President Andrew Johnson and the Republican Party. It's bull crap. All right. Where was you at?
I'm in Reconstruction. I'm on the second paragraph. It says 1880.
In April 1865?
Go.
Hold right there. Okay, go drop down to under his Reconstruction policies.
Come. Under his Reconstruction policies.
And we're talking about Andrew. Well, hold up, let me see. Let me make sure. Is that Lyndon B. Johnson? Not Lyndon B. Johnson.
It's Assessor Andrew Johnson.
Andrew Johnson. Okay, go ahead.
Under his Reconstruction policies, which began in May 1865, the former Confederate states were required to uphold the abolition of slavery, made official by the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution.
Now, remember what we said about the 13th Amendment,
right?
And the reason why it was so easy for them to take that and roll with it, that 13th Amendment, was because they understood and they talked to those southern states and said, look, we threw this 13th Amendment in there so that you could arrest people and still use them as slaves legally.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? That's why it rolled over so easily.
Right.
It wasn't easy in the beginning because they didn't understand it till they threw the 13th Amendment in there.
Right.
They threw it, and this is the reason. This is how the Union was kept together. You understand?
Okay.
This is why. This is why. It's no North and South now. It's just the United States. But they trying to get back to that now. You
Right.
understand? Go ahead.
Swear loyalty to the Union and pay off their war debt. Beyond those limitations, the states and their ruling class, traditionally dominated by white planters, were given a relatively free hand in rebuilding their own governments.
They were given reparations
Right.
for losing their slaves and their land being destroyed. They were given reparations. You understand?
Okay.
And we got black people. Now I'm not saying I'm not co-signing for reparations, but we got black people say we don't need reparations. You understand? Because they themselves see the world through the eyes of our oppressor. I'm not saying that we not here in the ISUPK. We not looking for reparations, but you have to understand something about somebody who is against affirmative action, who is against reparations, who is against, even if the thought came up, we not looking for it, but when the thought comes up and you say you're against it as a so-called black person, how can you be against reparations unless you see the world through the eyes of the oppressor?
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Drop down to that where it says passage of the black codes.
Come on, sir. Passage of the black codes. Even as former enslaved people fought to assert their independence and gain economic
Autonomy.
autonomy during the earliest years of Reconstruction, white white landowners acted to control the labor force through a system similar to the one that had existed during slavery.
Check this out, right? This is another law that they created, right? That America's about to celebrate it maybe in
Next
a few
month,
weeks.
September, Labor Day.
Labor Day?
Right.
Labor Day. Labor Day was created in 1871. Why was Labor Day created?
Oh, Slack, if I could, to ensure. Let me see how you said it. Ensure that the workforce maintained its white. To make sure white people kept their jobs, because they had labor, they had skilled slave labor that they could just pay pennies.
Right.
But the white boys was like, nah, man, y'all, it's like the oppressors. You know what I mean? Like, nah, y'all gotta pay us. You know what I mean?
Remember this, right? Right after the Reconstruction, 1865, right? All of the artisans, meaning skilled workers, were the slaves.
Right.
All of the best craftsmen were slaves.
Right.
Skilled craftsmen were slaves. That's where the artisan is. An artisan is a skilled craftsman, right?
Right.
Because over 400 years, you were a slave. You had the best skills. Your skill set was better. So what happened was after slavery, white people were still begin to hire slaves to do the work, and white people were out of work in the South. So what they did was they created the slave union. They created the labor union to oust out the slaves.
Right.
And then they said you had, in order to do work here or there, you had to be in the union. And the first labor union was an all-white union. That's how the oppressor began to block out so-called blacks, Hispanics, natives. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
By creating the labor union. America's about to celebrate that you said September,
Yeah, I think
right?
it's September, sir.
In September.
If I'm not mistaken.
America's about to celebrate that. And that was another code. That was another black code that was created to oppress us even more. You understand? Even after that. So now we had to stick together and think about it, right? They created that. And that made black people have to say, well, you know what? We got to rely on our own. Let's go out and build our own. And then that's when black cities and towns begin to pop up all around America. Then you started having black schools, black colleges, black theaters, black restaurants, black banks, and everything like that begin to pop up. Then you had to think about it in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street, places like that, in Rosewood. You understand? Seneca Village in New York. You understand? You had all of these little cities and towns popping up because, again, codes were created. Black codes were created to move black people out and make the hierarchy white again.
Right.
You understand? These are the things that we have to pass down. And even celebrating Labor Day, the 4th of July, we have to pass these things down and get our children to understand why we don't celebrate these things. Remember the days of old. These are the things that we have to remember to pass down to our children so that we don't continually do the same things over and over and over again. You understand? Listen, what we're going to do is, because I still got a lot more, I'm going to cut this into a part 2. I'm going to do this next week, so you got the week off next week.
Okay.
I'm going to take over the class next week because I want to get through this. I still got a lot to get through. You understand what I'm saying? So we're going to end the class right here. I'm going to pass the class over to Priest Officer Nadar Wan.
Security announcements. With ISUPK out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. New rules for brothers and sisters. When a brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. After 6 months, if a brother or a sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or a sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother or sister will court each other. After this 6 month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry. Ties, which is a commandment. You can find this in Numbers 18, 21, and Malachi 3, 8 through 10. Means 10th in Hebrew and is pronounced Ma'asherah. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, you give to the Treasury Department or teacher. Priest fund. Free will offering for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. Upcoming holy convocations, September the 15th. We got the memorial blowing the trumpets. All right. Remind Akim and Akwathiam to check on social media such as isubk.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for ISUPK events and materials. If a brother wants to be a trooper in the school, then he is to start wearing all black, which includes black boots, shirts, pants, headband, or scarf. With that, we'll give one courtesy salute to the teacher, men of Israel, Mightyam, Shabbat, Mightyam, Barak, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua Barakatah. Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua Barakatah. Yazoo Todd, class dismissed.